Now.
Good morning, everyone. Such a blessing to see you and be with you all today. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. Thank you all for being part of our family and joining us. Today is going to be fun. There's an amazing interview that we're having with Gary Ramsey, and Rhonda will introduce him in a second. But my question to you is, have you ever been in such a position in your life where you really had to take control of your life or lose it? This is the amazing story that this man is bringing to us, and I invite you all to come in and join us. Rhonda, will you introduce our amazing guest?
I will. I should put this way. Sorry, I'm just
and share it out. Do all those things. Share it out.
Yeah, everybody, just say good morning to us. Let us know where you're coming from. Please share it out. We're happy to have Gary here with us today. How I met Gary, how I contacted Gary was I talked to Anita Moorjani. People. I wrote a letter and said, hey, would you be on the show? Because my cousin said, hey, have you read her book? You got to read her book. And I said, oh, I should see her book and I should read that book. And, oh, maybe we should have her as a guest on the show. And her people wrote me back and said, hey, Anita's really busy. But we had this guest who was phenomenal on our show. People are still asking about him. You should ask him. And I said, gee, that's the best rejection letter I ever had. He actually told me who to invite. So, Gary, it's sort of like the rest of your life, what you said. Now you're here. It's a little bit, now you're here. It's kind of like that. I'm going to let you tell a bit of your story and how you got here. But I'm thinking, we've all had those thoughts, like what would we do if we were faced with death? And you actually got to have that face of death. But before that, you were just like going on your life. So tell us about your life before and how you came to this point.
Okay, well, before I had a very happy, wonderful life. I'm a teacher. As I mentioned, I'm an Alexander teacher, a voice teacher. I was an opera singer. I was living outside here of New York City in Jersey City. Everything was going fabulously. And I was doing job after job after job in terms of the opera and started having some odd little things that were no big deal. I mean, literally no big deal. Occasionally an upset stomach. Just tiny little things but I thought it was stress. And then it started to become clear that things were getting a little bit worse, but not bad. So I did go in. I had a little incident with what I thought was a kidney stone because I've had those before. And so I went into a doctor. He was like, no, it had to be the kidney stone. There was a little bit of blood in the urine, but it went away right away. Don't worry about it. They gave me an antibiotic. That didn't go well. The antibiotic kind of made me sick. And then it became clear that more was going on. So he had told me then to go see a specialist, which I did. So that took a long time because, as you know, anybody who's been dealing with this, you go for tests and this and test over there.
A lot of hoops.
And then they all come back together to the initial doctor who went on vacation. I might add.
Oh my God.
And during that time, I knew something was wrong. I was losing more and more weight. Things were getting off kilter. And then I walked into his office and he looked at me and he said, I've got to tell you that you can die at any minute. And I went,
whoa.
I went, what? And I said, excuse me, I'm sorry. And he goes, you can die at any minute. And I said, how? Because I have never heard anybody get that diagnosis in my entire life. And he said, you have a deadly tumor that's branching from your kidney. It's gone through your renal vein and it's going up towards your heart. And these are extremely rare. And I'm sorry to say they're very hard to deal with. And it's likely that you are not going to be alive by the end of today.
No.
And I was like, really? And it took me, we had a talk for a while. he stopped all his other patients, and he was, I'm shocked. He said, you appear to be in great shape, but this is deadly. My weight loss by that point was severe. And he said, you really need to get your affairs in order. He said, right now, you, me, and the people that did these tests are the only people that know what's going on. And you have got to get on this now. He said, even if we sent you to a hospital right now, they wouldn't be able to operate on you. He said, getting a team together for your surgery is going to be extremely difficult. And I don't think you're going to make it to surgery. He said, I honestly don't. And that's what I was left with. So I marched out of that office and as a fluke, asked for all my test results, which I don't know why, because he said my only options were Sloan Kettering in New York City. He said that would even be able to handle me, and possibly Hackensack in New Jersey. He said I wouldn't even bother with anybody else because they can't even cope with your situation. So I left there and I took those tests, and I had what I can only describe as this unbelievable experience that basically overtook me. I walked to a park that was nearby, and I fell into a state of what I would call extreme bliss. I completely transcended time, space. It was a gorgeous day in August. We were in late August. The wind was blowing through the trees, the birds, the people in this little park. It was magnificent. And I had this thought that anybody, anywhere, could die at any minute. And it just so happened I was being given information to this, that was proving it to me. And I went into kind of a trance. I remember I sat down, and as you mentioned earlier, what woke me up was thoughts of Anita Moorjani. Now, those of you that don't know Anita was dying in a cancer hospital, a top one in Hong Kong. Right. And her family was told she only had about 40 minutes to live. Her organs were failing, her body was shutting down, and this was it. She had been through her cancer for over 4 years. And she had a near-death experience and miraculously woke up, and her cancer began to disappear. So I woke up out of my little trance in the park, and I thought, wow, Anita, who I'd been a big fan of, I thought that happened to her, maybe something will happen for me. Yes. So immediately I kind of shot into reality, and I was like, all right, I've got to think, like, what should I do? So immediately I thought, well, I should tell someone, because the doctor said you've got to tell someone. You've got to tell somebody right away. So I remembered that I was supposed to call my sister, and I thought, oh my God, she's going to be so worried. She's probably thinking the worst because I haven't called her. And then I thought, this is the worst. It doesn't get worse. How can it get any better or worse? It can't. So I was a little too jovial when I called her, and I said, I told her, I said, I said, they told me that I could die at any minute, and she thought I was joking. So she started laughing, and I realized that line was not a good line to use with people, because a lot of people really thought it was just a joke, as really did I when I first heard it from the doctor. So then I said, no, I said, that's literally what he said. And always the big question was how. So then I got very good at my monologue of the description of the tumor and how it could stop my heart. I think it was either an embolism or an aneurysm that I could have at any minute. So at the end of that conversation, she said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. And so I just walked around the long way home, kind of in a daze, and I had just let go. And all of a sudden, there was Farrah Fawcett in my mind,
Right.
who had died a few years earlier of her cancer. But I realized before she had passed, they took her to Germany. And a friend at that time told me that Germany had the top cancer treatments in the world. So I thought, well, maybe there's something Germany has that would be able to help me. So I flew up on the computer and I looked up Germany, and I saw this magnificent place that was like a palace. I call it my White Palace in Mexico. And I just looked at it and thought, oh my God, if I'm going to die, I want to die there. So I clicked on it, and sure enough, they did deal with cancer. And so then I called because I couldn't stand it anymore. And I explained my situation, and they immediately said, oh, yes, we know about your kind of tumor. And I said, really? I said, wow. I said, why? And they said, well, they're very rare, and they are deadly, but we have a different perspective on them. And I said, a different perspective? And they said, yes, we don't see them as deadly as they do in the States. And I said, well, they're telling me I could die at any minute. They said, yes, you can, but that's also the belief in the States. We treat them differently. So that was my beginning of my journey that went on and on and on. And I know it sounds like that all happened in a very relatively short amount of time. I was on the phone with Mexico a couple of hours after my diagnosis. But then the journey after that went on for a very long time. So that is how my story began. That was the beginning.
Wow. Wow. How amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So the absolute letting go of, that responsibility of living led you to your life, more or less.
It literally opened me up to so many miracles I can't even tell you. I mean, things fell into place that were startling from that moment of finding this place online, the first one I find, to being completely cured in the end. And all of that was a 6-week period, literally, maybe 6 weeks and 5 days period from my diagnosis.
Wow.
Yep.
So you had a living death, a living near-death experience.
A living near death, yes.
Experience.
I never actually literally died, but every moment I could die. That was also told to me at Mexico. Mexico immediately, though, even on the phone, as I began applying, because, by the way, you have to apply. They won't take you unless they feel they can help you.
Wow.
So I had to apply for this, and they said the immediate thing to do is stop all sugar. Don't touch any sugar.
Wow.
They said it will shock the tumor, and that you should also be capable of flying if we do decide that we can treat you here. So that's what I did that second. Didn't drink or eat another bit of sugar. And I then proceeded to do their very long application. I needed my reports, my medical reports, which I took from the doctor, which I didn't know why I took them. And within just a few days, really, I was diagnosed on a Tuesday. I got the call that they were accepting me on a Thursday morning, just before afternoon. And I was literally on a plane Sunday morning, that Sunday morning. So it all happened extremely fast. And they made me very confident that, especially cutting the sugar, that I wouldn't die at any minute. And I didn't, obviously. And then I started to prepare for that journey. I found that one of my strongest things, and this is what I wrote about in my book and why I wrote the book, which I'll explain later, but I wrote that one of the best things for me was to not either think about wanting to live or wanting to die, but to stay so fully in the present moment that there was no past or no future.
Wow.
And that is really what I did. And whenever I didn't, I would catch myself and I would bring myself back to the present. And that was the most powerful part of my journey. I like to refer to it as living in the paradox. I was neither going to die or live. I was just going to be here, and then I was going to see what unfolded next from here. And that was it. And I did that all the way until the removal of that tumor, which was still threatening to kill me all the way up through surgery.
Wow.
So I lived with that for those weeks preceding the actual surgery, which was done in Mexico.
Yeah. So the whole procedure at the hospital is a whole integration of mind, body, and spirit, right? They work on the whole person. They give you energy healing. They give you counseling. It's diet, a lot of diet.
That's right.
And Lynn Marie was asking, what about fructose? But I know you told us the cancer just loves sugar, right? It just
loves sugar. Loves sugar.
Any kind.
Especially processed. Processed sugar is top. So anything that's processed, that is the most deadliest. That was Mexico had told me that was not here. And yes, my first appointment, my very first appointment when I arrived, the following morning was with the psychiatrist. That was my first appointment. And the first question was, so how are you feeling about dying? But just cut to the chase. Like, let's not. And it was revelatory because it was a healing on so many different levels, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, spiritually. It was everything that I believed about healing. But as we know in the States, quite often, you are not, things do not go that way. And it's much more from a physical aspect, which always made me uncomfortable. Plus, my only recommendation was Sloan. My key recommendation was Sloan Kettering. I had had a lot of people die at Sloan. I had also saw what had happened to them during their cancer. So I was not, hep on going to Sloan. And that's why I did seek out another venue instead of going to Sloan, which I don't know if I had been rejected in Mexico. I don't really know what I would have done. I really don't know because I didn't. And as I said, I stayed in the moment and I didn't allow myself to go to the future a lot or to fear what was said in the past. I was a little too jovial, I think, because of my Bliss experience in the park. I think I was very happy. I still say to people to this day, it was probably one of the most spectacular events of my life. It was a blessing beyond any blessing I've probably ever been given. Maybe birth could top it. But it was profound. And I've since then have urged people to really find what works for them in their healing, because as we all know, not all people heal in the same way. And we know that fear is what really rules a lot of people during and after their diagnosis. And that, I believe, is the greatest killer of all people, of all disease, anywhere in the world. I think fear is the ultimate killer, not the disease. I think, though, that the disease, fear, allows the disease to take over more.
Right.
Yeah, and disease by its whole thing is just dis-ease in the body.
Exactly.
Dis-ease in the body.
Caused by fear, right?
Yeah. Well, caused by fear, ultimately.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
Right.
So do you think that moment of bliss was actually just your true surrender and trust in whatever was happening, whatever was coming? You didn't have to try to figure it out. Like at this point,
Absolutely,
you
Bex.
had no control, right?
That is absolutely, and that was, I think, one of my greatest gifts from the universe, that I was given that experience in that park. And it was so profound. Fear just left me. And also, I mean, I was told I could die at any minute. So it was like, I'm up against the wall. Like, why be afraid now? You know, it's here. So there's nothing to worry about. And I released. And God bless Anita Moorjani, because she, I was one of the people that heard her original interview with Wayne Dyer.
Yeah.
Who I was another fan of, Dr.
Right.
Wayne Dyer.
Yes.
And literally, I was on the list for her book before it was published. At a Barnes and Noble. I was like, in the days when you could still do that. And because she was published in 2012, early in 2012. And I read that book and I was a fan of that book. And then here it was. I was now living a kind of similar story as Anita's story.
Wow.
And then lo and behold, you know, I'm out in Mexico, and who do I meet? But a good friend of Dr. Wayne Dyer's,
Right.
who literally we were together the day before his death. His death was released to the news.
Wow.
And I had told him about Anita, and we had this long conversation. I was actually on my way to a test that day. And then it was when I got back that I found out that Dr. Dyer had actually died.
Wow.
And that was another kind of coincidence. And I thought, oh, wow, isn't that weird? And he's the one that created Anita. And maybe one day I'll meet Anita. And I did.
That's awesome.
So that was another
Perfect.
bizarre twist in the story. You know?
But even before that, you had a twist. Like, this is like when you look back and you say, oh, maybe my life does mean more than I think it means. You were almost at the Twin Towers. We were talking about that because you live across the river from them that day.
Yes.
And you missed that bullet.
I missed that bullet, and it was another one of those just little intuitive things that came to me, and I thought, maybe I should check this out today. The Twin Towers happened on a Tuesday. I was supposed to show up on a Tuesday morning right across the street from the Twin Towers for an appointment that I then thought, why don't I just go in there today and see if they can take me now? And it was a Monday morning, and Mondays are usually the worst days for people to take anybody out of appointment. But they weren't busy that day, and they took me. And so I wasn't there on Tuesday morning.
Wow.
Yep. And so I've been on the journey of listening to my intuition for a long time. And boy, the cancer, it came right in. Like right in. I couldn't believe it. The only thing is I would always kind of think that I was being stupid about certain things, because sometimes, like taking my test results, even when I took them and they gave them to me, I was like, why did I ask for these? What am I going to do with these? And then 2 hours later, I'm on the phone with Mexico, and they said, do you have your test results? And I was like, yes.
Wow. Perfect.
So
That's amazing.
that was the magic that was going on for me all the way through. And I could go on story after story, because one coincidence, well, I'll tell you another big one. So the top surgeon in Mexico who operated on me, we were talking, he discussed, lovely man. He saw me several times. He literally was asking me, so you're from New York? And I said, yes. And he said, I lived in New York for a few years. And I said, really? He said, oh, yes. I did all my special surgery skills at Sloan Kettering in New York City. And I was like, really? That's where I was supposed to go. He said, well, he said, you know, I'm kind of like the next best thing. Because he was
Wow.
one of the top surgeons in Mexico.
Mhm.
So you see what I mean?
Yeah,
It was
that's
just
amazing.
wild. And again, it was story after story.
I remember another part of this story, what we were calling the dark side of the cancer, about how the people around you were reacting to you going to Mexico and all that. Would you like to discuss that a little bit? Because I
Yes.
think it shows us how we can all be so much more supportive.
Well, and I was mentioning that I call it the dark side of cancer, because when someone gets cancer, people rush to their side, right? It's when the individual decides to go against or goes out of the box and, like me, decides to do something that's very extreme, very out of the country, very avant-garde, not done. That's where things go amiss. And since having written my book, I have found this out from many, many people, and this is what people do not know, that people expect you when you are ill to do what they feel and what the world feels you should do. And if you do not, you become a target for the projection of all of their fears and their anxieties. And that's exactly what happened to me. Once I made the decision to go to Mexico, I had people attacking me in ways that I couldn't even believe. I found them shocking, at times appalling. People said things to me, did things to me, wrote things to me that were really mind-boggling, truly, because again, you would have thought they were the ones who were going to die, and I was doing something against them. That's really how these letters, I got texts, long texts, about how, in a sense, what I was doing to them. And it was like, guys, I'm the one who's dying, not you.
Right.
So what is this really about? And what I found is that people do a lot of projection with people who are ill. They do a lot. And when the person goes against what they think that they would do if they were in that person's situation, there is an immediate attack. And I had people who threatened me, told me they would never talk to me again. Some of them didn't talk to me again. I had people who would no longer communicate at all. Then there were ones that just, said, you're trying to kill yourself. Why are you trying to do this? I mean, it just ran the gamut. I could go, it was like, all right. But my blessed, profound experience just kept me focused. And I just kept saying, okay, I understand. All right, bye. And I just kept moving towards what I really felt in my heart.
Wow.
And I will also say, I really did think I was going to die in Mexico. I have to be honest, I was so convinced the tumor was so rare, and I had heard so much about this tumor, that I really didn't think Mexico would be able to do it. I even had an incident I wrote about in the book where I thought the plane had a problem and it dropped. And I actually thought something actually cracked. I really felt very weird. I thought I was going to die on the plane. I write about that whole sequence there. But I was convinced that I was going to a better place than I had seen my friends at Sloan go through what they went through, that at least I would be more comfortable. I would be in a much better environment, one that I wanted to die in, basically.
Right.
So that was really my intention. And then things started turning around. And I was as surprised as everybody else. Truly, I was, So that, yeah.
What a miracle.
So
That's so beautiful.
taking this to a person that isn't ill at this moment, Oh, I know we're all dying physically.
Yes, everybody's dying.
I mean, we don't get out of this place alive, like right. So, from your story and from your experience, what do you have to offer to the normal person who's maybe not at that critical point in their life that they, life or death? I mean, we could all go out and get hit by a bus going off the street, but hopefully not. But what's your advice to, the normal person just sitting here watching today?
That, again, the strongest exercise, I think, is to realize that every moment is a gift. It has been given. As God bless poor Kobe Bryant, his beautiful daughter, and all those beautiful people that went down on that helicopter, that we never know from one moment to the next what is in store. We can think we know, we can whatever. And what I do is I really keep that. It's almost like I can't live any other way any longer. That this moment is the greatest moment because I'm here, I'm well, I'm present, and then I'm going to keep this as a gift. And if I get another one, then that's going to be the gift. And I keep reminding myself that these are all gifts. This is not just business as usual. This is not just life as usual. This is a gift. And that as we move forward and see everything as a gift, we become more grateful. And that we live from a very different place. We stop all this nonsense that people do with the anger and the fighting and the debating and the struggles and the contests and all of this nonsense. That we cut that out. I can't even do that anymore. And I tell them that when you see fear in your moment, so in your present, whatever it is, even if it's getting on an escalator, the people that get afraid to get on the escalators and they keep like, that you recognize, okay, this is a fear that I'm producing within me, that I'm choosing to produce within me for maybe very good reasons. Now, can I take a step back and can I calm that fear a little more down so that I can continue to go forward? Because you have to practice the habit. If you don't practice the habit of fear, when you get the big one, like mine or other people get all the time, people call me all the time, been diagnosed with something hideous, that's too late. It's too late to practice because you're in the thick of it. And then you're the victim. You become the victim, and everybody tries to tell you what to do. Everybody tries to tell you that they know best for you, especially if it's someone who's an expert. Experts are the most dangerous to watch out for. And you have no self. I'm going to say you lose yourself. You lose your total self in the mix of that fear and that anxiety. And once you lose yourself, you are like someone who's been tossed out to sea. And then if you have been tossed out to sea, you really better let go. Because if you don't, and if you are afraid of dying at that moment, it's not going to go well. It is not going to go well. And so it's the practice, to practice the gratefulness of each and every precious moment. Each and every one. There's not a one that is bad. Even when they're bad, they're not bad. And by the way, in Mexico, I got a lot of, well, I shouldn't say bad news. They kept a lot of news away from me. Mexican medicine, they don't tell you, they tell you what you ask, but when they tell you, they never give it to you from a negative perspective. It's always from a more positive outlook. It's never from the negative. So, for example, I lost a tremendous amount of blood. My blood actually became one of the biggest problems towards the end. And they never saw it as a negative. They said, nope, this is good because it means that we're weakening the tumor.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You see what I mean? Or no, you're losing. I kept losing more and more weight. I was way thin. I only had 4% of body fat left by my surgery. And they said, no, this is good. This is really good. So they didn't cause me concern or fear or worry. And then pretty soon I was doing it and I was going, nope, this is good. This is good. No matter what it was. And then as it turned out, it was good. It totally was good.
So people can find your all your information on your webpage.
Yes.
They can buy your book at Amazon.
Yes.
And your book has all the details, like where you went and things you did and aftercare and everything else. So that answers all people's questions.
Right.
And you sing opera. Can you do a little song for us? Like, just a really small one, just a few. Like,
put him on the spot.
You've got he's been working his.
Partigiani della dannata, per quel prezzo vendeste il mio bene.
Oh,
There you
sweet. Sweet.
I don't know that recorded on this.
I did. That was so good.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, you got to watch his YouTubes because they're so cool. So no, just I've got your book on. Actually, I want to listen to your audiobook because your voice is so excellent. And I only listen to people who've got good voices when I listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, everybody was like the audiobook. So that's why I put it out with audio. Couldn't get a publisher, so I self-published because the information is just not something publishers really want to publish.
Wow.
So,
why not? It's a miracle. It's beautiful and inspiring.
But what I do want to say is that, again, I do not bash any medical. I do not bash anything. If somebody told me they were going to go to Africa for their cancer to work with a voodoo doctor, I'd be like, go. If that's what you feel the need to do, if you feel the need to go to Sloan and do the whatever they tell you, it's really you that's doing the healing. And everything else is the midwife to your healing. That's all it is. So if you are really stoked about your treatment, no matter what it is, even if it's the blood of the pig in that voodoo doctor's little shack somewhere in the middle of Africa, is going to do you miraculous. It's miraculously going to serve you. Wow. But if you are terrified and if you are apprehensive about anything, get out of there. Just get out of there.
Boom.
Because your system is telling you this is not for me.
Yes.
So that would be my biggest advice to anyone.
Definitely.
And you will be victorious. You truly will be victorious.
Either way, you're victorious.
Either way.
Yes.
Because I also found out that dying, there was a point when I knew I was no longer going to die after the surgery that I actually missed it. I actually fell in love with that space, being on that paradox between life and death. It was so exhilarating and so much fun. And I still get that at certain times now. But before I knew I was not, I was going to die, I was always there. I was always there. And I just don't see death as anything bad. As a matter of fact, I write this in the book, I thought I died when I came out of the surgery. I actually thought I died. It was the drugs. I'm sure it was drug-induced. And I was so, by that point, just famished and starved. But I really had thought I died. And it was one of the most euphoric moments of the entire thing. I was so happy. And then I realized that I wasn't dead. And then I was happy again. It was like living within the two worlds, dead and live. Because I don't believe anything stops. I think it's just a continuation. We just go on in another energetic direction.
Yes.
That's it.
Graduation.
Yep, exactly.
Graduation.
Yep.
And a really good one.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad you graduated into this life again and are able to spread all the information. So I'm sure it's for a reason, and somebody is going to be able to. Many people have already probably got so much direction and help from you.
Yes.
Bex, you have a question for
I do
Gary.
have the question. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you had to choose a song to be the theme song of your life, what would it be?
A theme song of my life?
Of your life, yes.
Of my life. That would have to be Earth, Wind, and Fire's September.
Woo!
I
And
love
you know
that.
why? Because I love in that they have September, that line, our hearts were ringing in the key that our souls were singing as we danced the night away.
Woo!
And to be honest,
Feels
that is one of the best lines. That's what happened. My heart started ringing in the key that my soul was singing, and I just danced cancer away.
wow.
So there you go. And hey,
Yeah.
look at this. I even got, oh my God,
That's awesome.
there it is. I just love this song.
You don't.
So that would be my advice.
That was
We'll have
That's my
to
song.
we'll put the clip of YouTube on that and on the comments, or unless somebody else wants to just clip it in there, that would be great. So everybody knows where to get his book, and anything
Yeah.
else you're going to be doing. I know, I
What's next?
follow
Yeah.
your Facebook page, so it's pretty cool. And we get
Yeah.
your little.
Thank you very much. No, that's what I do. I do my live casts usually every Monday. Tomorrow I'll be doing another one. As a matter of fact, we'll be discussing this interview where this is going to be the subjects. And I get I teach, so I have a lot of people that get me into small groups, and I talk to people about my experience. So that's really what I do. And then the book, and then dear lovely Anita and her people, they recommend me all the time to lovely people like you, and to other interviews that I've also done. And that my Hay House interview with Anita on her show has always still, they run that to this day. So that's also
awesome.
yeah, that's how the book came about. Actually, it was all about Anita. I never wanted to write a book ever, never in my life.
Well, you do lots of good work, and what you teach is kind of what you live. So it's
Yes.
pretty cool.
For sure.
Yes, it really is.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, thank
Oh,
you.
Gary, thank you.
Bex, have you
Yeah.
got some announcements for
I have
today?
one announcement, but first I just wanted to say, this has been such an amazing experience for me to listen to your story, and
Oh,
so
thank you,
inspiring. What I'm taking away from this is really practicing the ability to let go.
Yes.
Let go of control, let go of fear, let go of all of that. Just let go, surrender.
Just let
Because
go.
that's where your bliss is, that's beautiful.
Yep.
And I love how you experience the paradox of you letting go and all these people trying to control you at the same time. You were letting go of control, they were showing up as control, and you really got to see the dynamic of the two, and that was
Absolutely.
so beautiful. So thank you for that. That was such a gift for me to be able to have that,
you
that
are
awakening.
so welcome.
So
And that's,
thank you.
by the way, where the title comes from Joseph Campbell. His theme was follow your bliss, so I called it Bliss. And then One Hero's Journey, he talked about the hero's journey.
Yeah.
So we're all a hero on our journey. So I'm just one of those heroes on their journey, as we all are.
Wow.
So that's really where the title came from.
It's beautiful.
thank you
So
for
perfect.
saying that, Bex. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
inspiring.
All right, so we have to announce the winner of last week's Share It Out, who won a reading with Teresa. So thank you so much for all your love and support. Lynn Marie, you are the winner. So
Lynn Marie, congrats.
And
Teresa
she's
will
here today.
contact you to schedule your reading. And the winner of next week's Share It Out, whoever shares out the most this week, will win a Healing Through Your Records session with Rhonda. So get this out, share it out. There's so many people out there who are waiting to hear this exact story, that are ready for the inspiration this is going to offer them. So share it out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
Thanks so much for being on our show, and we'll keep tuned, and we'll keep an eye on you. As
All
well.
right.
Yes,
Thank you.
so much.
More
Lots of
great
love.
things are coming, no doubt.
Yes,
Woohoo.
many blessings.
Yes.
See you later. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Namaste.